We are live. We are live on the Jeff Nosing podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Paul Hutchinson. What is up, sir?
Hey, Jeff. Great to have this opportunity to share to your group.
This is going to be a fun conversation. We have a movie coming out in the next couple days, so we'll be kind of in perfect timing with the release of this podcast. And Paul's lived a very interesting life, a life that needs to be brought to the public eye, and I guess this movie is going to help elevate that. Like, I just want to get right into your story, like for our audience to understand what is the movie slightly about, and then let's get into your story of where it all started. What pushed you into that train of that motion of helping others and saving children and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So, Jeff, the movie coming out the week of July 4th is called The Sound of Freedom. And it highlights the largest child rescue mission that I knew of in history at the time. Over 120 victims were rescued in Colombia in one day. And Eduardo Verástegui is the producer of the film. He plays me in that film. Jim Caviezel he plays the part of the Homeland Security agent who first recruited me. That was my very first rescue mission. Since that time, I have led or been a part of over 70 undercover rescue missions in 15 countries. And just came out from being undercover just a few months ago, did my first podcast just 2 or 3 months ago, because I believe that sharing the stories is going to create a bigger difference. There's plenty of Navy SEALs and Green Berets that have fantastic talents that we're helping to fund through my foundation. It's called the Child Liberation Foundation. And we're helping to fund them and helping to fund the healing side of this whole mess.
What got you into this? Let's talk about Paul prior. Let's talk about Paul 5-10 years prior to getting into this. What were you doing career-wise? How did this all come about?
So I am somewhat of a serial entrepreneur.
Good.
Had a number of fairly successful companies. My most successful one, I'm the co-founder of Bridge Investment Group. I retired completely in 2017 with about 4,000 employees at the time. And it's a real estate investment fund, but I retired completely to focus full-time efforts on charity work. And how I got involved, I'm going to back up and just touch on a couple things that I think are important for the audience. Number one, decision I made in my early 20s that I had a mentor that told me, he said, Paul, if you make a decision today that a large percentage of your time and your money will go to charity, you'll be infinitely more successful in your financial goals. And at the time I made a decision, hey, you know what, I'm going to give 20% of my time and 20% of my money, not just 5, 10%, whatever. And I believe that one decision made all the difference in the success of the companies that I built. You can call it karma, you can call it God, you can call it the universe, call it whatever you want to. I call it God. There's a higher power that's very interested in us doing good. And I can pinpoint the successes in my companies to the overabundance of charity work that I had been doing in different areas. And I decided in my early 20s, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to donate a lot to charity, where does it go? Does it go to a bum on the side of the street, a good guy, but maybe made bad decisions in his life? Now he's asking me for drug money. At the time, that didn't feel right. You know, I'm doing a lot of things to help in that arena now, but at the time I thought, okay, where is my charity money? I decided to focus on children. And I donated a lot of time and money to child-related charities. I was on the Make-A-Wish board of directors for 7 years in Utah when I got a phone call. In fact, I was the incoming chairman at the time, and I got a phone call from our attorney general, Sean Reyes. He said, Paul, he said, I need to talk to you about something. He said, I know you're very involved in child-related charities. He said, I'm going to talk to you about the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And good people don't even know that it's happening. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, it's child sex slavery. I says, what? Slavery? That disappeared at the time of Abraham Lincoln. He said, no. He said, there's more today. And I'm not talking about just children being abused at home, which we'll talk about later, which is a bigger problem. He said, sold human beings. There's more today than all 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade put together. And he said, I said, well, what do you need from me? How can I help? He said, well, there's a Homeland Security agent who's in Colombia who he has identified about 20 children in Cartagena area. And this story I'm telling you right now is the plot of the movie. So The Sound of Freedom is this. It starts out following the story of this Homeland Security agent. While he's still in Homeland Security, he's taken down pedophiles. He'd never rescued any children at the time. He finds these children in Cartagena, Colombia, true story. And he needs to figure out how to rescue them. He can't get the authorization from his boss at Homeland Security because he needed $50,000. The government here figures it's the Colombian problem, not theirs. And he's like, it doesn't matter what country they're from. These are kids. These are children. And the demand is coming from the US. So we have a responsibility to help fix it. And so I helped to put together some funding for that rescue mission. And about a week or two later, he called me. And he said, Paul, he said, I'm in Cartagena. There's not just 20 children here. There's more than 50. And there's more than 100 children in different trafficking rings that are tied together in different cities. He said, we have a plan. I believe we can rescue over 100 children in one day, but I need your help on a big scale. And I said, well, how much do you need? He said, I need you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? Now, he knew more about my background than most people. He knew that I have a set of skills from a previous life that makes me somewhat safe in a dangerous place. But more important than that, he needed somebody who could effectively negotiate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal with the traffickers. The head trafficker had a piece of property he wanted to develop into a child brothel sex resort, something like a Jeffrey Epstein Island type of a thing. And he needed $8 million to build it out. But he believed he could make tens of millions of dollars a year selling these children to wealthy business owners from around the world that would fly in. And Tim said, I believe that if you come down here and you tell him, listen, I will fund your project under one condition. I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks. I'm going to bring a bunch of my rich friends. You bring all the children you have right now. You prove to me that you can be successful with this project. I'm going to have a party. You bring all these kids to my party. And if I like what I see, I'll fund your deal. So I'm sitting there face to face with the most evil people that you can imagine, selling children. I mean, there's nothing more evil than I can think of than selling an 11-year-old girl to a complete stranger for sex. I mean, how much worse can you get with all three of those together? Nothing is worse. And so I'm sitting there at this table, and one of the traffickers was a female. She was a modeling beauty queen type thing in Cartagena, and she had this fake modeling agency that she was going around to towns in Latin America and telling the parents, oh, your daughter's too pretty to be working in the field. She should be a model, and bringing them to this photo shoot, and boom, these kids would disappear. Horrific things happening because of the demand and the amount of money that was at stake. And so we negotiate this deal. The federal agents in Colombia provided like 70 agents for us. These guys showed up in Cartagena with 54 children. We did 3 separate cities at the same time on the same day, and over 120 victims were rescued that day. And the thing that changed my life the most, Jeff, this is where the name of the movie came from, is after the agents came and stormed the party and arrested everybody, me included, and guys with us, Tim included. The bad guys think that we got extradited to the U.S. to stand trial. So we're there, getting handcuffed. The traffickers get taken into a separate area. They're getting taken off the island. 30 Child Protective Services people came in with the children, and they started singing and laughing with the children. And I've got this video of me in this separate part of the house, and I could hear the laughter, and I am crying. I am crying because that sound of freedom was the most beautiful sound that I ever heard, especially compared to half an hour before. All I could hear was crying from some of the children that were scared to death of what was going to happen next. And so we decided to take this story and make a film from that rescue mission. Now, we actually took in the film itself, we took 8 different mission rescues and kind of put them all together. I mean, the little boy whose sister's in the film, that's not really his sister. He was actually rescued like 5 years before by some Homeland Security teams and whatnot. But
you need the plot. You need the plot, and you need the connection for the audience, right?
Exactly. And we had a lot of heroes that were involved with that. I feel bad that, you know, my image is there with the producer of the film, and, you know, Tim's image is there with Jim Caviezel. There was a lot of good people that were involved in those different rescue missions. But we took those stories together because we needed the audience to understand what was going on. Everything in the film really happened, just not in that order and those people.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that. There's 2 things I want to jump back there. One, I don't know if you could dive into this. You said your prior life. You did a little snippet there. Are you allowed to jump into that? Your prior life, what you did?
A little bit. I'll just touch on this. A lot of the good men and women that we work with are former special forces, Green Beret. You'll find, though, that a lot of guys in that space have a hard time undercover. If they don't have their night vision goggles and a whole team of guys with sniper, whatever else, and you don't get close to traffickers when you've got that kind of, you know, gear, et cetera. And so if you've ever heard of Krav Maga.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I did. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 27 years, and we have numerous companies. And the main company I do for the last 17 and a half is we design and manufacture boxing martial art equipment. So yeah, of course I know Krav Maga. Yeah, okay.
For audience that doesn't know, you know, typical martial arts. Out your sensei, 3 points when you kick him in the leg. Krav Maga is brick to their head, go home to your family. It's Israeli special forces hand-to-hand that training. It's the most lethal on earth. Every move, they don't talk, they don't walk, they don't see. And we can take away a gun faster than they can pull the trigger every single time, right? And so we have found that guys that have that kind of training together with and this is kind of a funny side story. About a year before I got that call from the Attorney General, I was friends with him for a long time. I helped him get elected, introduced him to a lot of people. And I had called him up. This is about 11 years ago. And I said, Reyes, I said, I have front row tickets to the Miss America pageant. I said, we should go. You should come with me. He goes, and his exact words were, Hutch, unlike you, I have a reputation to uphold. He said, I can't be front row at Miss America. I said, no, it's not like that. I said, we have some of the children who had lost their fathers in military battle this last year. And these girls, we're flying them there, paying for their hair and their dresses and their travel and the hotel and with their mothers and having them crowned a Miss America on stage by another Miss America. And it's a beautiful charity event that I'm part of. And Sean's like, okay, that's cool. I'll come with you. Yeah. So we go out there, and because it was a fallen soldier charity, the Pentagon had sent a representative. This representative named John had been a CIA recruiter for about 20 plus years. And we were there for about 3 days, and we're at dinner the last night. And he said, we're sitting there at dinner. It was me and Sean, and there was former Miss America and some other people there at this dinner. And he leans forward and he said, Mr. Hutchinson, I've been watching you for the last 3 days, and I think your country could use your talents. And I'm like, well, what talents are those? He goes, you're about what we see is about 1 in 12 million. He said some people would call it a chameleon. It's your ability to communicate with all kinds of different people and quickly build that relationship. He said, I saw you in seconds break down the barrier of communication and become close friends with a bum on the street, a billionaire, or a runway model. He said, your ability to do that is something we can't train. He said, and you have the perfect backstop. You run a multi-billion-dollar investment fund. He said, imagine this. We fly you to Dubai. We line you up with some dirty money guys. You become their friends. You get us the information you need. I'll line you up with some real billionaires to make it worth your time. He said, I've looked into your background. I know that you have skill sets from a hand-to-hand combat training that would make you safe in a dangerous place. But I've had extensive stuff there. And he said, this would help take down some, white collar crime guys. When his guys called me a couple months later, I actually turned them down. I wasn't that interested in putting my life in danger for some white collar crime guys in Dubai. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
A year later, though, Sean Reyes is in a meeting. He's in a meeting with, and I wasn't there, but Sean told me, he says he was in a meeting with himself, Tim Ballard, the Homeland Security agent, a guy by the name of Josh Romney, Mitt Romney's son, and some others. And the Homeland Security agent was saying, hey, I need somebody. He said, I want to go public. I want to be on CNN, ABC. I can't be, doing the face-to-face undercover. I need somebody that can play that role and be safe at it. He said, but ideally, I need somebody who's coming from money, because the guys that are buying these children are that profile. He said, do you guys know anybody like that? And Sean Reyes said, oh, have you ever met Paul Hutchinson? And Josh Romney said, oh, Paul would be perfect. And later I told him, I said, I don't think that's a compliment. You guys both think I'd be a good undercover pedophile? So that's kind of the conversation that brought everything in, that brought me to the point where I had the opportunity to be there and not only fund part of that mission, but more importantly, be there physically. And the thing that changed my whole life, not just hearing the children sing and that sound of freedom that I heard, but prior to that, the traffickers had brought out 4 virgins, scared to death, 3 little girls, 1 little boy. This little boy gave him cocaine that morning because he was so scared it was going to hurt him. What kind of effed up monster thinks that that's attractive? This little girl, 11 years old. In the movie, we named her Rocio in the movie, and the traffickers had called her Princess. That's what the name was. And she's standing in front of me. I'm sitting down. She's standing in front of me. She's no taller than I was as I was sitting down. She's standing. There's tear stains that were, her makeup was running from her being just so scared. She was shaking. And I looked in her eyes. She looked in my eyes, and she was seeing me, scared to death of me, thinking I was the guy that was going to defile her. And I made a commitment at that moment that I made a commitment to myself, to God, and to that little girl, that I was going to do everything in my power to eradicate that from the face of the earth. There was nothing I could imagine that was more evil. And so I put massive resources of time and money and risking my own life with over 70 rescue missions over the last 10 years to try to eradicate that problem.
Let's dive in. There was one more question before. I have a ton of questions for you, but there's one question. The first time you were there, I understand you're comfortable, you're talking. You had to be shitting yourself being in front of these drug lords, or these, whatever you want to call them, obviously cartels or whatever you want to call them. What was running through your mind up to that moment? The anxiety, like, how did you calm yourself down mentally? Like, how did you prepare yourself for that moment, just to sit there and start the negotiations and all that?
I'll say this. The very first time when I flew down and we were setting up the party and I'm meeting with the traffickers, and first of all, I had a lot of protection. Yeah. And real Navy SEALs and Green Berets that were my real bodyguards and my show bodyguards. Yeah. Which was super important. But this pit in my stomach, realizing the reality of what was going on. And here's something that just shocked me. I'm sitting there this first time at this table. I've got these traffickers there, including the female trafficker. And one of them leans forward and he said he was so excited I was willing to look at his child brothel sex resort project that he leans forward and he goes, Pablo, he goes, I have a gift for you. And he's just speaking in Spanish. My Spanish sucks. We had some translators there, but he says, I have a gift for you. I said, really, what's your gift? And he leans forward and he hands me his phone. And there's a picture of that 11-year-old girl, the same one that later was standing in front of me with the tear stains on her face. And he hands me his phone. He says, this is Princess. She's still a virgin. She's 11. We just took delivery of some, and she's my gift for your party. And he starts talking about horrific things that I could do to this little girl. And I thought, I got sick to my stomach. Like, I'm getting sick to my stomach just talking about it right now. And the Navy SEAL that was right behind me, he's like, I'm gonna, go check the restaurant, make sure everything is, secure first. And later in the debriefing, he said, that little girl looked like my little girl at home. He said, I unholstered my weapon and shot him right there. And so what I did when he showed me that, and I realized something he said made me realize he had more virgins. And I said, you have to bring those to the party. I'm very interested in them at the party too. We had to get them out, right? He goes, oh no. He says, those ones are too expensive. I'm like, too expensive? I'm already paying $25,000 for this party, $500 per child for 50 children just for 2 hours in the afternoon with them. He goes, Jefe, he said, you already pay $25,000. You want to F a virgin? It's going to cost you extra $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 more. I was so mad. I'm sitting there. I've got my nice shirt, my nice watch. I'm like, you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He's talking about these kids like they're commodities, right? I'm like, you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He goes, oh no, Jefe, no. I said, I want every one of those virgins at my party. I said, they damn well better be virgins when they get there. They're not for you. They're for me. You understand? You want me to fund this party? You're going to bring them. And the female trafficker, this Miss Cartagena lady, she's Giselle. She goes, oh no, we can't bring. And for a second, I thought that she had a heart. And Tim said, what? Why don't you want them to come? She goes, oh, they're not ready yet. We have to show them some pornography. We just got them. We have to show them pornography. We have to show them sex acts, and otherwise they're going to cry. She says, but if you're okay if they cry, then I'm okay if they come. This is the kind of darkness that we're dealing with.
As a dad, that's very, very close to my kids. Like I'm big. I mean, my kids are 15, 17. I still drive them to school every day. I work out with them every day. My 17-year-old daughter, on weekends wants to hang out with dad more than she wants to hang out with her friends. So hearing these stories, if I was there, I'd be that Navy SEAL trying to pull out his throat. I mean, it's crazy. And it's sickening in its reality, and it's what you're just dusting off the freaking cap of it. I mean, there's so much more reality to this. My two of my closest friends, my best man at my wedding is a sergeant, police officer up in Toronto here, and the gangs right now. I mean, the abductions, the trafficking of it's crazy right now. Even here in Toronto, it's crazy. It's everywhere. And just hearing this and just hearing these stories, I mean, it just has to be brought to reality. It has to be shown. I mean, it has to be. Yeah, this is just absolutely insane.
Problem. This is the thing, Jeff. A bunch of Navy SEALs and Krav Maga guys are not going to fix the problem.
No.
Every time we pull these children out of hell, I mean, realize this. There's approximately 2 million children a year that are being sucked in to the deepest recesses of hell. There's somewhere when I started, they estimated there was about 8 million children plus that were in child sex slavery, sold human beings. And today, I finished some rescue missions in Latin America just the end of last year. And I looked at the numbers and I realized there was more children being sold today than there was 10 years ago. So if my goal was to eradicate this problem, I wasn't doing a very good job because it was growing faster than what we could do. And I realized, wow, we could hire 100 teams of operators and have them out every single day pulling these kids out of hell. And unless we do more to fix the demand, There's always going to be a vacuum and more children are going to be sucked back in. You have to fix the demand side. You have to take the pedophiles out of the equation. Now, here's the thing. There's two ways to do that. We've got some foundations that are out there that are taking pedophiles off the street, doing a great job. However,
what are those foundation names? I just want to bring this all to light.
Yeah, so the Lantern Foundation is a great one. The Sentinel Foundation is a great one. The Child Liberation Foundation is. Free a Girl is doing a good job. These are all different ones that we help to fund.
Okay.
I had full disclosure. I made a hard break separation with Operation Underground Railroad about 5 years ago. They're the ones that I started with for 5 years. That's the one that the Homeland Security runs. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm not going anything on public. Why? But I will say that I made a clear, hard separation with them, chose other foundations that I felt were more in line with what needed to happen, et cetera. But there's a lot of good groups that are out there. But I will say this, pulling children out, yes, you're making a difference in the lives of those kids. Taking out those pedophiles, you're probably saving 100+ kids when you do that. But what if, Jeff, what if we had a time machine and could go back 10 years? This is what kept going through my mind on all these rescue missions. People say, how can you go face to face with somebody selling you a child and have them not see just the anger in your eyes of how horrific their life is? And I say, yeah, I'll tell you this. I actually feel bad for them. How can you feel bad for them? They're selling you a child. No, I will do everything in my power to ensure they never hurt a child again. But more than anything, I wish I could go back a year or 5 years or 10 years before they ever hurt or touched or sold a child. What if I could go back then and figure out what the hell is wrong? What was wrong with their child? Chances are they were raped as a child. Chances are they had some major issues, trauma issues that were unresolved, that got them to the point where they started making bad decisions after those bad things happened to them. What if we could go back there and help them heal? At that point, we would have saved the children from ever being abused in the first place. And here's what the problem is. There's 10+ million children being sold in trafficking. Yeah. But it's a tiny, tiny number compared to the real problem. The real problem is this, Jeff. If you look around your neighborhood, you open up your door and you look down the street, 1 in every 4 houses on your street is a dangerous place for children as they're growing up. Here's the numbers. 1 out of every 4 women on the planet were a victim of child sexual abuse as a child. Now with men, it's a smaller number. It's 1 in 5, 20% of all men at some time in their life have been a victim of sexual abuse. However, 1/4 of them, roughly 200 million men, that happened under the age of 10 years old in their own homes. And so here's what's happening. You've got so many people listening to this podcast right now, probably about 1 in every 4, 1 in every 5 people listening to this podcast right now are carrying some trauma from childhood. The average age of somebody coming out and saying, these things happened to me as a child, average age is 52 years old. That's my age. So they've grown up, they've raised their kids, they've built their career dealing with these kind of issues. Now, God bless them, 2 out of every 3 people who have dealt with that are able to shed it, to work, to live a good life and work through that. However, 1/3 of child abuse victims become contact offenders themselves. And when it comes to sexual contact offenders, it's upwards of 100+ victims. So here's what we have. We've got a broken society. We're pointing the fingers at child sex trafficking because that's super dark and that's scary for all of us. Oh no, my child could get kidnapped. The chances of a wealthy, affluent family having their child being sucked into this is pretty slim. The majority of the children come from broken homes, come from foster programs, come from super poor countries that they're bringing them in, et cetera. But these children are still just as valuable as you and I. And our children. The real key is, how do we fix the demand side? And for a long time, I thought that the demand was coming from hardcore pornography addiction, where when you take a woman from a divine feminine to an object, you start going down a dark road and you get addicted to something harder and harder and harder. I've realized that even that is a symptom of the exact same problem. This world of generational transfer of trauma. So if we can help people heal, hurt people hurt other people. Healed people can help heal others. So I'm putting massive amounts of time and resources into building healing retreats, teaching people how to do breathwork seminars and deep meditation, and shedding that trauma so that it never shows up in physical, verbal, or sexual abuse of another person, especially a child.
Let me dive in there. Two things. As you were saying this, I actually just interviewed a gentleman yesterday, Brady Lavoid, from Canada, was sexually abused as a young boy, internally by a family member, and kept it quiet because he was a rising star hockey player and didn't want it to bring the shine of light. It was in the early 90s. Ended up signing a pro contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but always had this, and that turned him into drugs and essentially ended up homeless, lost his contract. So he had this crazy story, and it was just when he was able to tell that story and get that out as an adult is when it happens. So it is very prominent. It is something that a lot of people will hold in for years and years, right? When you're talking about a pedophile, and you're talking about the rehabilitation and just the do you honestly believe that some of these people could be changed?
When you get to the point where you've crossed that line, it's difficult, right?
Yeah, but sorry.
But yes, I think that no matter how broken your soul is, I think that there's room for redemption. Here's the thing. If you put me in a room today and you say, Paul, you've got 100 traffickers and you got 100 pedophiles in this room, you got 200 people in this room who have crossed that line, and you have the choice of two weapons. You can either have a gun and no retribution, or you can have a microphone and they have to listen. I would think about that gun for a while. Right? I would, because there's no excuse for hurting a child. But I would take that microphone. And if that was a couple hours I had with them, that would be the most transformational 2 hours of their life. I would take them to the pit of hell. I would make every one of them cry, knowing what I have seen and the depravity of their actions and how that affects these children. And then I would pull them and say, okay, now let's talk about you and your child and yourself as a child, and what was broken there and what was unresolved trauma that got you to this point, and help them work through some of that. Now, they're still going to jail, right? They're still going to be put in a place where they can't hurt another child again. However, I believe that there's a pathway to healing, even if it's just a little bit of healing, but they need to heal. There was something freaking wrong with them that got them to that point where they thought that it was okay in any way to hurt a child. And so more important than that, what if we can get them before they've crossed that line? What if instead of 2/3 of the people that were abused as children that are able to work through it and be a good husband, good father, and work through their trauma, what if we could have like 9/10 of them or 100%? What if we could help all of them heal before they become contact offenders? I believe that's possible, yes.
And you don't have that mindset of just a chemical imbalance. Just is something that can't be changed. I'm just throwing things at you, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just throwing things at you because it's hard.
I'm probably the best person to ask that question to. So my first successful company in my early 20s was a company called the Midwest Center for Stress and Anxiety. Okay. We had 50,000 people a month calling in off of our infomercial to get a workbook, an audio program, and videos of a cognitive restructuring program to help people change the negative habit patterns of thought that were creating anxiety and depression in the first place.
Okay.
We have a 97% success rate within our coaching program of helping people get to the point where they can live a normal life again when they had debilitating anxiety. So here's what would happen. People would say, no, I went into my doctor. My doctor said that I have a chemical imbalance. I have to be on Prozac. I have to be on Xanax. I have to be on all these drugs. Well, what you don't understand is how powerful the brain is. So one of the first audio programs that changed my life when I was 14 years old. My dad gave me an audio program by Brian Tracy called The Psychology of Achievement. And that was the first time that I started to understand how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our words are, that it's not just our actions that create. It's not the law of attraction. It's the law of creation, where it's our actions, our words, and our thoughts are creating a world of abundance or a world of scarcity, a world of pain or a world of happiness. These are things that we have control over. Perfect example. You have a bunch of teenage boys are sitting in a room and a bunch of beautiful girls walk in and they start taking off their clothes. Those boys, their brain will release a chemical measurable in their bloodstream that will change the physical makeup of their body and how they feel. Okay, that's an easy example, but it happens in everything in our life, and how we process something, how we process fear and anxiety. In that situation, if we could help people change the negative habit patterns of thought that were creating that anxiety in the first place, worry and what if thinking and negative expectations and the perceptions we have of ourselves and our coping skills in dealing with stress, these are all things that can be changed. They're habits that are ingrained in us because we saw how to deal with life based on how our parents were dealing with life, etc. And so if we could help them have a cognitive restructuring program and change those negative habit patterns of thought, we had a supremely high success rate in overcoming anxiety and depression. I see that in every area of life. If you want to talk for 2 hours on business and how to build a multi-billion-dollar company, it's the same answer. It starts right here. John and I in this little teeny office, we'd bump elbows when we turned around. And I'd be making phone calls trying to get $25,000 for a deal by Friday. And John would say, I'd turn around after a call and I'd say, John, we're going to be $1 billion fund someday. And John, he tells this story all the time. He's like, Paul, we need $25,000 by Friday, right? And but it was that mindset, that visualization of where we could go and seeing it, that he attributes a lot of our success early on is that visualization. This happens in everything in our life. So yes, I believe that there are chemical imbalances. But I believe that those chemical imbalances start with this and can end with this. We have some guided meditation healing ceremonies that we do and helping people change that negative self-talk, do a lot of mirror work and stuff like that. We have a very high success rate in helping people get off of anxiety and depression medications permanently using some of these tools. So I've got proof that it works, but you've got to be willing to put in the work. You can't just take a pill.
No, I love that. I mean, you're preaching to the choir for a lot of those things. Like, you don't know, there's a lot of history on my story and stuff like that too. And I'm a strong believer in control the controllables. I'm a strong believer in how the words and actions that come out of your mouth. Like, you hear a dad, and I've coached and I've helped a lot of dads, and you hear a lot of dads are, I gotta go home, take care of my kids. No, I get to go home, take care of my kids. I gotta pick up my kids. No, I get to pick up my kids from school. It's changing those little words out of your mouth and the perspective of how you feel, right? I mean, I'm a strong believer in a lot of the stuff you said right there, which is pretty awesome. With all the children that you've rescued and helped rescued and been part of missions, have you kept in contact with any of them?
We, as the operators,
yeah,
very seldom do because we don't want to re-traumatize them. They see us that there's too much confusion. Wait, that was the guy that was going to buy me, you know? Yeah. So what happens on the, we get taken off in handcuffs as well. Now, the one girl that guy showed on the picture that was standing in front of me, when we were getting taken off the island in handcuffs, she either felt something or maybe somebody told her that we were they weren't supposed to tell the kids that we were the good guys.
Yeah.
But she was standing there by the window. Her hand was on the window. She had her little friends by her. She was crying again, but she was waving and in her broken English said, "Thank you, Americans." And I started crying. We have a lot. My wife does a lot of the aftercare for the Child Liberation Foundation now. We actually met in Haiti. My wife is, her name is Ada Vanessa, Hada, last name Vanessa. She was a pretty famous actress in Colombia for a while. And I tell people meeting a beautiful Colombian actress is kind of cool, but when she's donating an orphanage in Haiti, that's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And I was finishing up some rescue missions there, and now she does all of the aftercare with the kids. She's building out something with the Child Liberation Foundation. She's building out something called the Healing Wings or the Liberating Wings, wherein a lot of these aftercare facilities for the children, they've got beds, they've got a therapist that comes in, but we want to, they're building some physical extensions on them with some healing tools and places where the children can work through some of their trauma and have some big TVs where we've got professionals from around the world that are going to be training them and working with them on a lot of things and putting together programs. So super beautiful. So I don't get to stay in contact, but my wife does, and it's super beautiful.
Now, with your own, I guess, just well-being, like you obviously went undercover with a lot of these, whether you want to call them cartels or gangs, or now you're in the public eye. So you're out there, you're telling your story. Do you have any fear of your own life? Do you have any fear of these guys will ever come back to get you? Like, does that ever cross your mind?
Not any more fear than I had 2 a.m. in downtown Port-au-Prince, Haiti, or Mexico City, or anywhere else. I mean, I'm there face to face.
Yeah,
with who would kill me in a second if they knew who I was, and that was way more dangerous. I mean, there's plenty of federal judges that have put super bad guys behind bars. That that's the kind of life that they live, and so yes, there's risk there. And I'll say this, in terms of the drug lords and stuff, a lot of people have a misconception. Here in the U.S., you put a pedophile in jail, the bank robbers and the drug guys and stuff, they're going to beat the crap out of them if you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. There's this pecking order in a lot of areas, and in a few of our undercover missions, our intel came from the drug lords, which is super. People are like, oh, what? One of them, the guy said to my operator, he said, you may not agree with how I do business, but I've got children of my own.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Guys are evil, and I'm going to kill them. And if I do, you've got 30, 50 children, you don't know where they are. Or I tell you everything I know. You go in, you get those kids out, you get them back to their families. You make sure he goes to jail, and I'll take care of it from there. So there's rings, and then there's rings, and there's bad guys everywhere. But if I was willing to put my life in danger for those children in Colombia and all the other missions after that, why wouldn't I be willing to do the same thing to rescue millions of children by taking these stories public?
Yeah. That's amazing. Was there any other, besides the ones from the movies, was there any other stories of the 70 rescues that just stand in your head and just like, wow, like, I can't believe that was happening, or a moment where that it got a little more dangerous than expected?
Oh yeah, I've got lots of those.
Give me another one.
Okay, I'll tell you one. So there's a documentary out called Operation Toussaint. Toussaint is the name of the airport in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And because I was undercover, I'm not in it very much. We actually had made the decision that a lot of these rescues, our undercover guys would go in, they would find the children and everything else. And then the day of the rescue, we would bring in the Homeland Security guy and some cameras and stuff, and he would tell the story of what had happened. So you're not going to see a lot of my operators. You will see me a couple times. My face is blurred and I'm laughing with the traffickers. You would hate my guts if you didn't know who I was, because that's the only times that I'm there, because we don't have cameras decover. Yeah. The end of that documentary, there's a little 14-year-old girl that you can see, and she's I believe she was holding a teddy bear. I have to look at it again, but That little girl was taken when she was 7. Her parents were killed in the earthquake in Haiti.
Yeah.
And the traffickers came in with this disastrous situation, picking up these kids. Nobody knew this little girl was alive because there was so much crap going on. And she was sold for sex 20 plus times a day for 7 years. Now, I have some video of this red door. There's this. I was about 2 o'clock in the morning. By this time, I wasn't the wealthy guy that was going in. I was now working for a wealthy guy. So I was able to go in at 2 in the morning in downtown Mexico City or Port-au-Prince or all these different cities and physically find the traffickers and bring them out. That's what, after the first year of undercover, the last 9 years, that's what I've done, is the deep cover work, right? And so I had worked my way up to what I call a level 3 trafficker, the ones that are physically holding the children in captivity. This trafficker sticks a key in this steel door, opens it up, and there's this dirt hallway and dimly lit and multiple cell doors down the left-hand side. No windows, no any other access other than this small steel door. And the trafficker opens up one of these steel doors, and I see this. It's not even a bed. It's a steel plank that's held to the wall with a chain, so you can fold it up and down, you know. And there's a dirty, dingy little blanket that was sitting on that. And to the left of that, on the dirt, there was a concrete block. And this little girl was sitting on that concrete block. She looks at me with this blank look in her eyes, like this has been happening for 7 years. I told the trafficker, I said, yep, that's what my boss wants. And there was multiple doors with multiple children. At the end of that hallway, there was this queen size mattress with condoms all over the, horrible. And I was just sick to my stomach. That little girl, she didn't speak for 2 weeks after the rescue. Now, I wasn't there, but I was told that her first words that she said were, I didn't think anybody would come. She had given up hope 6 years before. Nobody knew she was alive. And what makes me so mad is that every single man that walked through that door for 7 years was there to hurt her. We were the first, I was there with Andy, one of my undercover operators. We were the first 2 men through that door that didn't have that intention. She's now adopted into a healthy family, learning to dance, back to school. Every one of these children have a story just like that.
When it comes to North America, how much is this happening in North America?
The US, I don't know about Canada, but the US is the #1 consumer and producer of child pornography in the world. And the majority, the reason why I was recruited is on that first mission, I was like, you know, I hear the children that are laughing and I'm crying and I hear the sound of freedom and I'm like, and I turned to Sean and I said, oh, that changed my whole life. I said, I spent my career making rich people richer. I want to make a difference. What do you need? Can I write you a check? What do you need? And he said to me at that point, he said, Paul, he said, unfortunately, the majority of demand for this horrible act in second and third world countries comes from wealthy business owners and politicians and Hollywood people in first world countries. He said, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to wear a $4,000 suit and a $50,000 watch and negotiate a multi-million-dollar deal. He said, I haven't found an ultra successful business owner who's had the training that you've had. He said, if you're willing to be the bait, I'll change your whole life. So in answer to your question, there are hundreds of thousands of children in the US right now in child sex slavery, average age of 12 years old. That when they first get brought into that trade.
And are these like quote unquote classified as runaways? Like, how are they lost in the system? And why am I asking this? Because you're seeing this a lot now with And when I talk to my like all my, I have a lot of close friends who are police officers, and a few of them do undercover. And when you talk to them and they tell you stories, a lot of them, what they say is a lot of them are kind of prospect through social media. They find girls that are broken, that are complaining about their parents, and they try to wean them in, and then they get them somewhere and drugs, and all of a sudden they're gone, and it looks like a runaway. Is that something that's very, very evident?
All the time. We had a rescue mission in Cabo San Lucas, and one of the girls that the trafficker was trying to sell us was a little 13-year-old, and they had a broken family. Her and her older sister were living with their grandmother in California, had decided that they wanted to go to Mexico, ran out of money. The 17-year-old sister got tied in with some of the traffickers that saw them as an opportunity. They told this little 13-year-old, they got her addicted to drugs, and said, you know, you this is how you're going to pull out of this financial hole that you're in, etc. Other ones, you know, super broken families. We had one just recently. We were in Ecuador, and there was this little girl who, at 8 years old, her mother died. Her father was a raging alcoholic. She got sent to her uncle and aunt's home to live. By 10 years old, her uncle was raping her almost every day. And by the time she was 12, some traffickers had identified her as a prospect. By 13, she had an older boyfriend that was making her feel loved. And this older boyfriend said, you know what, you don't want to be at that house anymore. How about we go to Peru together? Bought her plane tickets, and she ends up going to Peru. As soon as she lands, he takes her shopping for some really sexy clothes, takes her to the apartment that they're at, takes away her passport and her phone, introduces her to the other girls, and says, here's what you're going to do. It's $1,000 a night minimum. Otherwise you get beat up. Now, these tricks were, you know, $50 each, or I mean, she was 20 guys a night that she had to sleep with in order to not get beat up. She had a couple nights where she missed that number. She got sent to the hospital. That's where we found her. And now, what do you do in that situation? You can't send her back home. She's being raped by her uncle, right? These broken situation families. So it's so much. It's poverty. It's a foster system that's not working. It's runaways. It's broken families. This is where the supply side is coming from. We need to fix that as well as the demand side to fix the problem.
Now you're going to the demand side. I mean, there's something you talked about. You had mentioned earlier the island, the Jeffrey Epstein Island. How much, when you're looking at individuals with deep pockets, is that an issue with? Is that and then being able to control that, and obviously with governments and protection, and how much is that just brushed under the carpet?
A lot. Yeah. It's more prevalent than you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I believe, based on everything that I have learned, I believe there's a really important reason to that these guys are not releasing the names of the people who went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. Here's what it was. If you are super corrupt and you want to control the votes of judges and senators and congressmen, if you want to control that forever, the best way to do it is to get serious dirt on somebody, serious dirt, right? You get a video of them in the island. You don't want that list to come out. Why? Because then all of that corruption is taken out of the system and you don't have any control anymore, right? So you got to leave them in so you can maintain control, because you get good guys in there that don't have dirt on them, that you don't have that video of them, that you can't control their votes, you lose your control of the system. That's what's happening all the way up. I have seen it in other countries. I have seen it here. That's what's happening all the way up and down the chain.
Where does most of your day nowadays, like how much time do you allocate to business, allocate to charity? Are you doing 100% charity right now?
100%. So I started a new, I'm the founder of the Child Liberation Foundation, and now Liberate Humanity. You can go to liberate-humanity.com. Sorry, it's liberating. Sorry, liberating, not liberate. Liberating. No, is it liberate? It's liberate. My wife just said liberate. Sorry. My social media is liberating-humanity, but Liberate Humanity. We've put together some information there. We're building out that website. We have lots of people that are saying, how can I help? And I say, what skills do you have? And they say, oh, I can do social media. I can do website. Great. We'll put you to work in expanding that. So there's ways that people can help without just writing checks. I flew into Miami. I'm here in Miami now at an Airbnb. We flew in here just about a week ago because we had a premiere of the Sound of Freedom movie here. And every single day I have interviews with journalists and people that want to hear the story and bring it out. And so this is full time. Full time every day is building. We're building a healing retreat in Mexico. Where people can come in for a fully immersive transformational healing experience. We're going to have groups of guys that come in for 4 or 5 days, and then groups of gals who have dealt with childhood trauma, and then couples and, adolescents, whatever. And so I believe in 4 or 5 days of deep, focused, guided meditation training, and we can work through a lot of childhood trauma. So we're building that as a model, and then we're going to expand that everywhere. So that from a real estate standpoint, I'm fully retired from Bridge, but focusing on putting together some syndicate partnerships and things with those as well. And then from there, it's all the Child Liberation Foundation, Liberate Humanity. I didn't have any social media, zero, for 10 years. I mean, I maybe had LinkedIn and crap like that, but my Instagram went from 4,000 people a month ago to 12,000 people today. What's
your Instagram account?
Instagram is liberating-humanity. You can also go to paulhutchinsonofficial.com, and I think I've got links to all of them. I'm just building it right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just out talking, and I did my first podcast a month and a half, 2 months ago, and it got 100,000 shares in the first month. So I had two videos last week that hit over 1 million views on TikTok. So people are responding. They want to hear. They want to be a part of the mission. My goal is to help liberate humanity, not just liberate the 10-year-old from the clutches of a trafficker in Honduras. That's where all of my time, my focus, my resources, everything is going to that mission of liberating humanity.
You obviously have a partner now that has a lot of your goals are aligned. What does your wife mean to you? And I put you on the spot because I know she's there. What does your wife mean to you?
Here's my favorite story. You ready for this one, Jeff?
Yeah.
So my claim to fame is not building a multi-billion-dollar company, not rescuing all the kids. Here's my claim to fame. So look up Henry Cavill. If you don't know who he is,
of course, Superman. Yes.
Right? So Henry was at Vanessa's work almost every day. They started a date, not publicly. They went on 3 or 4 dates, and then she met me. I stole Superman's girlfriend. What? There's my mic drop right there.
Where do I have? I have him back there. I got Superman back there.
That's right.
I love it. I love it.
We've done well. We do everything together. She's the executive director of the Child Liberation Foundation, and has a huge heart, and absolutely my ride and die. We actually got married only a month ago. We've been
wow. Okay.
5 years, and got married a month ago in Acapulco, Mexico. It was super beautiful ceremony.
That's amazing. Congratulations. This has been awesome.
She's now stuck with me. In her phone, Henry Cavill, he had his name in there as Henry Cavill, my future husband. I changed it to Henry Cavill, the fake Superman.
This is going to be our social media clips, not the whole story. These little parts here. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I'm just joking about that, but
As you should. I'm good with it. Front and center.
This has been an amazing conversation, and you're doing an amazing things. God, I mean, it's. I hope you continue it. I hope your mission changes lives, continues changing millions and millions of lives through prevention, which I think is where you're aiming for a lot more too. Prevention, two, obviously stopping a lot of the trafficking through the process as well. So, I mean, awareness is the biggest goal, because the more people are aware of this, the more eyes are open to it. The more people will donate and help their, like you said, time, effort, money towards slowing this down. Because I don't think this will ever be something that will ever be stopped. But if we could somewhat control it and slow it down in your mission, I think you're doing amazing things. So I congratulate you on that. And as a dad, I praise you on that as well. So thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Jeff. I've got a couple books that are coming out in the near future. One of them goes through the 70 plus undercover rescue missions in detail of everything that happened.
When are they coming out? Do you know?
I don't know the name of it yet, but that one should be coming out first. We're working on timing, probably in another 2 months. But then right on the heels of that one is one called Are You Listening? Not are you listening with my hand on my ear, but are you listening with my hand on my heart? Because every single undercover rescue mission, when we found the children, we weren't following logic and protocol. We were being led to places that would keep us safe, to finding out where the children were. And people can use that to guide them through their own trauma, can guide them to a life of abundance, can guide them to stealing Superman's girlfriend, whatever it is, you know, that inner guidance system that we all have is something that we could do an entire podcast on, just that subject, and how we can listen to that still small voice of truth within us and help keep our children safe, and how to understand which partners we should or shouldn't be involved with in business or whatever it is. And we discount that in this world of social media, even this world of AI. We're putting everything out there in this digital world, expecting that that's going to save us and teach us and guide us. And in reality, we can all find that guidance.
Intuition. I would say, I mean, you're marking it as intuition, your inner voice.
Yeah, exactly. And we all have it, and it is more pure, it is more true than all the other voices in your mind, in your ears, in social media, etc.
Yeah. This has been awesome, brother. I appreciate it. I'm sure when you're ready for your book, if you want to come back on, like I said, we have a massive Canadian audience. I mean, you'll get well over 100,000 within probably the first 2 weeks of views and listens on this. And like I said, when you're ready for your books to come out, I'll give you, when we're off, I'll give you my number, and you could reach out to me directly, and we'll get you on and help spread the word of your books and all that stuff as well.
I would love that. I am really grateful for that, Jeff. Thank you.